while looking at the proportion, when we observe the cadre of presidency appointments, we can see that there were only 8 Telugu officers, but there were 56 non-Telugu officers in that presidency appointments cadre. See the difference. So you can easily see that almost it was 7 times more than the officers of Telugu to non-Telugu. So what is the percentage of population you saw here? 40% of the population of Madras presidency was of Telugus, but when we come to the presidency appointments cadre, out of all the officers, there were 56 non-Telugu officers, but only 8 Telugu officers. So here the proportion is 1:7, but here the proportion is 40:60. So here they almost reached half of the population, but here they constitute only 1:7 ratio. So what kind of injustice is this? So the Andhra people observed certain examples which were given in this Hindu paper, and when we observe the statistics about the judiciary, we can observe that there was no single Telugu judge at that time. So districts have district judges. So in Madras presidency, there were Telugu districts as well as Tamilian districts. But when we observe the judiciary department at that time, there was no single Telugu judge at that time in Madras presidency, but there were 90 non-Telugu judges. So what kind of ratio is this? So the number of Telugu district judges was completely 0, and the number of non-Telugu judges was 19. So this kind of injustice, this kind of inequality treatment, so Andhras all observed certain statistics which were published in this Hindu 6 articles in April 1911. So when coming to the educational institutions, so the writer or the contributor to the Hindu paper in April 1911, he has given statistics about certain towns. So he had mentioned examples of Bapatla, Machilipatnam, Narasapuram, Rajamandri, Vishakhapatnam, Parlakimidi. So in these towns, the educational institutions which were present in these famous towns at that time, they were all headed by non-Telugu heads. All these educational institutions in Bapatla, Machilipatnam, Narasapuram, Rajamandri, Vishakhapatnam, Parlakimidi, they were all headed by non-Telugu heads only. So where were those Telugu heads in such important towns for such educational institutions? So you have seen the statistics about the cadre of the presidency appointments, and you have seen about the judiciary, and you have seen about the educational institutions. Everywhere the inequality of Tamilians and Andhras was clearly visible at those times. So, but the writer blamed this condition. So the writer blamed the Andhra leaders for such condition. So the writer, the correspondent of the Hindu newspaper, he blamed the Andhra leaders for having such a miserable condition in those times. So what was the reason? If Andhra leaders who were present at that time, if they could fight stronger, they could obtain certain high level posts, they can obtain more number of judges, they can obtain more number of Telugu heads for these educational institutions. That's why the writer or the contributor blamed these Andhra leaders for such miserable conditions. So, but the interesting element in this topic we can observe is he has not mentioned openly about any suggestion of separate Andhra province. Is it clear? So, though the writer or contributor, though he had mentioned about all the inequality, all the injustice done by the Madras or the Tamilians to the Andhras, he did not openly mention about any separate Andhra province or separate Andhra state. So what we can observe here, though he did not mention about any separate Andhra province, the idea he has given in his articles indirectly states that if we can have certain Andhra province or Andhra state which is separated from the Madras presidency, all these statistics or the proportions or ratios can be balanced on the side of Andhras. So the idea was clear from his article, but he did not mention about the separate Andhra province. Okay, so this is about the Hindu articles. When we go to the Deshabhimani newspaper, so 2 months before the publication of this Hindu articles in this 1911, the Deshabhimani newspaper, which was a Anglo-Telugu weekly which was published from Guntur, has also mentioned about the conditions of Andhras at that time. So 2 months before the publication of this 6 articles in the Hindu newspaper in April 1911, the Deshabhimani newspaper, which was an Anglo-Telugu weekly which was published from Guntur, has also focused on the conditions of Andhra people in the Madras presidency. So it has published a very long editorial with all the full 3 columns which was written about the conditions of Andhra people in Madras presidency. So it has published a long editorial which was containing 3 full columns, and all the 3 full columns explained about the miserable conditions of the Andhra people in this Madras presidency. So after explaining about the conditions, this Deshabhimani weekly or Deshabhimani newspaper, it has strongly suggested a separate political conference for all the Andhra people. So after explaining about the condition of the people, it has given a suggestion that these Andhra people should have a separate political conference for themselves in order to discuss their miserable conditions in the Madras presidency, and in order to find out the solutions for it, and in order to fight for the identity of the Andhras and the advantages of the Andhra people. So, and this discussion which was carried out in these 3 columns in that long editorial, it dealt with the Andhra needs in the Madras presidency. So the discussion which was carried out in this 3 columns which was published in this Deshabhimani newspaper, so these 3 columns focused on the needs of Andhra people, that means the developmental needs of the Andhra people. So next, so the Hindu newspaper, so the 6 are, this is about the Deshabhimani first instance. So the whatever the matter, whatever the content or the statistics or the proportions which were published in the Hindu newspaper or Deshabhimani newspaper, they had a profound effect on the mind and thought of the people of Andhra at that time. All the literate people of Andhra, they could know about the reality of their condition in the Madras presidency. So the Hindu and the Deshabhimani newspapers contributed this thought a lot. So with these newspapers, more people began thinking about their own condition in the Tamilian dominant state. So more people began thinking after reading such articles in the Hindu and Deshabhimani newspapers. So with this, they could foresaw their future. What is their future? They were part of the Madras presidency. So after reading these articles, at that time only they were having they were facing such injustice, so that they could foresee the conditions, they could foresee what would be their future in this Madras presidency if they continue to be in that Tamilian dominant state. So they started, more and more people began foreseeing and thinking about this matter. And by the end of the year 1911, the number of people began advocating a separate Andhra province for themselves. So this 1910 which was the publication year of this Andhra Charitamu, and 1911, which was the publication year of this Hindu and Deshabhimani articles. So these two years were the turning point for the ideology of separate Andhra. So this, by the end of this 1911, a number of people began thinking about having a separate Andhra province or a separate Andhra state for themselves. So let's continue with the topic. So next we have seen that, so this is the condition at the end of 1911. So while publishing these articles, so this Deshabhimani newspaper has made a statement that the Telugu talent, that means the skill or the writing skill, or we can say the literature which was a part of Telugu language, is dying out very fast. That means these Madras officers or the Tamilian officers, they were not concentrating on the literature or the language development of Telugu. So before this Telugu loses its significance or loses its charisma, so they want that, they asked the government officers that it is their duty to stop the extinction of this Telugu language and strive for the development of the language. So while publishing these articles, the Deshabhimani newspaper has said that the literature or the talent of the Telugu people are regarding the literature. They stated that these government officers should perform their duty. It is the duty of the government officers to stop the extinction of Telugu language, to save it from the dominance of the Tamil people. So what happens here when we concentrate about the language? So in order to see the development of literature in certain language, so the development of Telugu people should be carried out first. That means the if the Telugu people can have separate government, they can develop themselves so that they can develop their language. That means all these topics or all these areas are interrelated, as mentioned by Deshabhimani newspaper. So if Telugu people can have a separate government, they can develop themselves so that they can develop their language and literature too. So a famous writer known as C. Sheshagiri Rao, he has come up with certain articles, and he strongly suggested for the formation of a separate Andhra province. So C. Sheshagiri Rao, he also wrote for the Deshabhimani newspaper only. So he had made a strong suggestion about having a separate Andhra province for Andhra people. So in these articles published in Deshabhimani newspaper, so C. Sheshagiri Rao, he mentioned about the thought and literature in the Telugu language. So in his articles which were published in this Deshabhimani newspaper, he has mentioned about the thought and language of Telugu people at that time. So if we can observe the tendency of a language or tendency of literature in some language, we can analyze certain topics here. So a common language, if people were having certain common language, certain new ideas or new thoughts can be flown in the public very easily. That means if so many people are having the same language, means whenever a human gets a new thought, a human gets an innovative thought, it can be communicated to the other people in an easy manner. It reaches more and more people if more people were having a common language. So this further contributes to the unity of certain language community, and this forms a bond, and this forms an attachment among those people. So this is the role which is played by language, whether it is Telugu, Tamil or anything. So if we can analyze certain features, this is the power of such language. So if more and more people have certain common language, the innovative ideas, new ideas can flow very easily among those people, and these people can be unified easily. They could have some unity, they could form some bond, and they could form some attachment. They could have some attachment with the role of this language. So why we should discuss about language this much here? Because if Telugu people can have separate state, the effect directly falls on the Telugu literature. This is a point here we have to observe. So whenever we concentrate on the topic of literature on any language, so the proportion, the population which speaks a particular language, it depends on the independence of the people belonging to that language. That means if the people who were speaking certain language can have certain independence, they can develop their literature much. So if the speaking language can be developed much, it transforms into literature. What is literature? The literature is any books or articles or anything. It's a written form or a poetic form or in the form of songs which comes out of certain language. So when people speak certain languages, the spoken language results in certain great literature in that particular language. So what is the condition which is required for such development? So the environment, the people who were speaking certain language should have certain environment, so that the conducive environment, that the friendly environment can give rise to the growth and development of their language. That means if the people who were speaking particular language, if they have certain conducive or friendly environment, then only they can grow, they can observe the growth and progress or development in their language. So when we observe such environment in this Madras state, it is not suitable. The environment in the Madras presidency was not suitable for the language, for the development of Telugu language. What were the particular reasons? When we look at the Madras presidency, the capital city of Madras presidency, Madras itself, is lying out of the Telugu speaking regions. When we observe the Madras presidency, the capital city of Madras, so it is outside the Telugu speaking region. So the Telugu speaking region is in Andhra and Rayalaseema. So where is Madras? The present day Chennai. So this Madras is in the Tamil speaking region. So when a capital city of certain presidency lies out of the Telugu region, so how can these people can develop their language and literature? So that Madras presidency, the environment in Madras presidency is not suitable for Telugu language, because the capital city of Madras presidency, that is Madras, was lying out of the Telugu speaking region. So this is one factor, and one more factor is that this Madras presidency was being administered by British officers. Those British officers were having very less relationship with the greatness of Telugu language. And if we can observe the subordinate officers were also non-Telugu subordinates. That means if we have to concentrate on the development of the Telugu language, since the Madras presidency, so we can see that in Madras presidency, the administrators were British officers and the subordinates were non-Telugu subordinates. Their relationship with Telugu language was much less. So they won't concentrate on the development of Telugu language as possible was done by the Telugu people themselves. That means if Telugu people can administer or rule themselves, they can develop their language and literature when compared to their condition in Madras presidency. So since these British officers and non-Telugu subordinates were not having much relationship with Telugu people, because due to the language gap, so the problems they could not bring to the notice of the higher British officers at that time. That means since these British officers and non-Telugu subordinates, so since they were having some language gap, some communication gap with these Telugu people, so bringing out the Telugu speaking people problems to the notice of the higher officials was much hard in those times. So in order to have a solution for this all certain problems, so many of the people came to a conclusion that they should have a separate Andhra province for themselves. So they wanted to separate themselves from the Madras presidency, which was dominated by Tamils, and they wanted to form their separate Andhra province. So let us continue with the topic, the next one. Thank you.